Hi everybody, I am going to show you in the Premier+2 Embroidery Extra or Ultra software how you can modify a design. We're going to use the Kimberbell Monthly Meetup gift pocket pouch, as well as the gingerbread candle mat, which was the month prior to that. And we're going to create a new gift pocket pouch for Christmas. So you can use any designs you want. I'm just going to use these two to show you how we can take from one and take from another and put them together and do some switching. So the first thing we're going to do is when we open up our software is we're going to insert the first design, which is going to be the gift pocket pouch. I am going to go on my computer where I have the design stored. Gift pocket pouch. Pull up. I'm going to use the Thinking of You, doesn't really matter, you can use either one. It's going to show up on my hoop screen. I have the 240 by 150 hoop in the natural orientation showing on my screen. We see the entire design listed here, but I want to get rid of this sentiment in the middle as well as this picture. I want to leave everything else, all the other parts and pieces. So I am going to head over to my Modify tab. And when I get here, I have in my design panel all the steps or colors of the design. I can uncheck boxes and make things disappear on the screen a little bit at a time or all at a time so I can see what exactly is each element of the design. Right now I'm going to make sure everything is check marked, so I'm going to draw all stitches, make sure everything's check marked, and I know that step number 1, 2, 3, and 4 of this design are part of the basic design, the background, laying the placement stitch on the stabilizer, laying the felt down, laying down a placement stitch and a tack down for the base fabric that's going to go on top that we're going to type our sentiment on. So I'm going to leave those I'm going to uncheck those 4 boxes, excuse me. I'm going to uncheck those 4 boxes because those are stitches that I want to keep for this project. Now I know that step number 5 is 5, 6, 7, 8. These are all part of the sentiment inside of my gift pocket pouch. And I know this because I've gone through and I've unchecked everything and I've seen what each piece and part of the design is. So you may want to uncheck everything, see what numbers they are, maybe write down some notes. I like to do that when I'm doing this. It just keeps me a little more organized. So I'm going to uncheck boxes 1 through 4. And I'm going to come down my list here. Color number 10 is also part of the design. You can see as I hover over it, it changes the words thinking of you from pink to black, so I know what color that is. Well, I'm going to want to get rid of those too, so I'm going to leave that one checked. But when I get to stitch number 11, that moves to the satin stitch around the sentiment block. I want to keep that. So I'm going to uncheck it. I know it seems weird, the things I want to keep, I'm unchecking. So that all I see on my screen is the sentiment that I want to get rid of. The piece that I want to delete from the design is what I'm going to leave on my screen and what I'm going to leave checked under the color list on my Modify tab. From there, I'm going to go up to Select All Visible. This is going to put a selection box around only the colors or the steps that I left on my screen. And then I'm going to come up to Delete. Now, when I delete, it's going to actually get rid of steps 5 through 10 in my color list, but I'm going to have new steps 5 through however many I have left. So I'm going to click delete and you're going to watch my thread list change. So now I have steps 1 through 4 are my beginning and steps 5 through 9 are my ending. Okay, this is kind of important. You might want to note this so that you know when we add our new sentiment or picture or name into this block, we will know where to move those up in the line of our steps so that things stitch in the right order. If we just added a new sentiment at the end of this and combined it, it would have us put the back on this pocket pouch and then stitch our sentiment. That won't work because then there's no pocket anymore. So we have to not only modify the design, delete part out, but we have to put something new in and then move it into the old sentiments stitch order. So we want to kind of keep an eye on on our order, but we have another way we'll kind of check mark this when we're finished. So from here, now I have just my sentiment block. I'm going to go back to, or my pocket pouch, excuse me, and I've deleted my sentiment. I'm going to go back to the home screen, and I'm going to see just that blank pocket pouch with my little ribbon placements for my sweet tube, and I'm only going to have 9 steps in my list. From here, I want to go find a new design. Maybe you're just going to use a font. Maybe you're going to use a design that you have built into your software. Maybe you're going to use a design you have from someplace else. I'm going to use the design from the gingerbread mat. So I'm going to go to File and New Window and open up a new blank hoop screen right over top of my other ones. I'm not closing the other one. I'm just opening one on top of it. And I'm going to go back to my Insert tool. I'm going to go back to where my designs are stored and find that gingerbread mat. And now we kind of are in the same situation. We're going to go back to the Modify tab like we did before. And this time I want to uncheck things until I can figure out where those little gingerbread men and all their parts and pieces are located. Oh, so I found them. They're here. So on this particular one, steps 9 through 13 are all the parts and pieces to my gingerbread men. So what I want to do here, because I want to keep my gingerbread men, I'm actually going to put check marks in box number 14. I'm going to uncheck 9 through 13 and then place a check mark back into the rest of these boxes because we don't want the rest of the steps for the candle mat. So now we'll just have the candle mat and we're going to do the same thing. Select all visible stitches and delete. And now all we're left is with the gingerbread men. Now I only want 1 gingerbread man, I don't want 6, but these are all part of one, each one is all together. So if I delete one color, I'm going to delete all of them. So what we have to do now is select just one of those gingerbread men and cut him out. So I like to use the Freehand Select tool up at the top. You could use the Freehand Point Select if you want to, but this one I think is the easiest. So I'm going to turn on the selection tool. I'm going to have a little lasso next to my cursor. And from there, I'm just going to click and hold and drag, creating a circle or whatever, a shape around that gingerbread man until they meet again, and then I'm going to release my mouse. It's going to select just one gingerbread man, and I'm going to come up and copy. When I copy, it's going to place that one gingerbread man on my clipboard down here in the right-hand corner. So now I'm going to go to my toolbar at the bottom of my screen, and I'm going to toggle back to the first Premier+ window we had open with that blank gift pocket pouch. When we get there, you'll notice that that gingerbread man we copied from the other screen is still on this one's clipboard. So we can come up here to paste, and we can paste that gingerbread right into our design. I don't want him standing on his head, so this little circle on the side of my selection box is a rotation tool. I can just click and rotate him into the position I like, and then put my cursor inside the box to move him where I like. You want to make sure you don't cover up these ribbon placement stitches because otherwise he'll get a ribbon stitched on top of his head. Once I have him where I like him, I'm going to come back to my letter tab, the top of my screen, go into my font selection and choose a font. I am going to use a script font. For this particular project, because it is smaller, I wanted to use a smaller font. So I just found one I liked. I'm going to use the line script. I'm going to type my message into my letter box. Sending Christmas wishes. I am going to guess maybe 10 for my size, and I'm going to click the apply button. and it's going to put my message on there. I can move that message where I want to. I can say, ooh, maybe I don't like that font. Maybe I do like that font. Maybe it needs to be bigger. Maybe I want to move things around. I want to make changes to this. I don't want to have to go up here and delete and start all over and pick everything. So what's really nice with Premier+2 is I can right-click on this box and go to the Properties category. I could choose a different font if I wanted to from here if I don't like this one. I can change the size, so maybe I'm going to make this a little bigger. I can even change the shape or the justification of my font from right here without deleting and starting over. So I'm going to set this to a left justification and change my size to 12 millimeters. When I click OK, it makes those adjustments. I can come in, I can move. Maybe I want to move this little gingerbread man down a little bit. And get everything placed where I am happy with it. Once I have everything placed, right now these three elements are separate. So I want to go back to my Home tab and I want to combine them. I'm going to combine all, and now in my color select list, all of those elements are listed in one. Now this is where the rearranging takes place and is very important to make sure that your design stitches out in the proper order. So I'm going to go back to my Modify tab. I know steps 1 through 4 were my original steps that I kept. Then steps 5 through 9 were my second set of steps that I now have moved into the middle. I need to move what are considered steps 10 through 15 in between step number 4 and number 5. So this is a lot of steps we're going to be moving around, so you've got to pay attention. I like to uncheck these boxes so that I can see exactly what I'm working with. So I'm going to get rid of everything on my screen. Okay. So I know that step number 9 was my, step number 9 was my last step of my original design. So that's an easy point. We know the first step that we're going to need to move is step number 10, and I can check mark and see that's the placement stitch for my gingerbread man. So once I have a check mark in him, I want to make sure that I click on the color until it's highlighted blue, and I now want to move the color up. So the buttons underneath of that color select window, there's an up arrow and a down arrow. I'm going to choose, when I have the blue selection on, I'm going to click and I'm going to watch this color move up one color at a time until I get him to spot number 5. Okay? So now my next step, I want to make sure that I have the next step highlighted, which is going to be step number 11. It's going to be the gingerbread tack down. I'm going to make sure I have a selection on that color so it's blue, and I'm going to move it up into position number 6. Once I have that, I'm going to scroll back down here. I'm going to uncheck my box, and I'm going to find the gingerbread's face. I'm going to make sure I select that, turning it blue, and move it up under the gingerbread tack down. From there, I'm going to come back and uncheck this box. I'm going to check out what this is. It's number 13 is the white icing for my gingerbread man. So I want to move him up under color number 7. So I'm going to make sure I select him, move him up into position number 8. I'm going to come back down, check out color number 14, make sure I've got it selected in my line, and move it up under color number 8. I'm going to go back down to the bottom. The last color should be my lettering, which it is. And I'm going to make sure my selection is here on number 15, and I'm going to move it up into the spot under number 9. Now, colors 11 through 15 should be my last steps from my original design. But before I go any further, I'm going to check and make sure my stitch out order is going to be correct. I can do this one of a couple ways. I can check mark these boxes. So I have my original placement stitch, my original tack down stitch, my placement stitch for my sentiment background, my tack down stitch for my sentiment background. Here's where we should move into that new creation that we've put into the center. So my gingerbread placement, my gingerbread tack down, my gingerbread face, his icing, the hearts for his cheeks, and then my words. My next step should be the satin stitch around that block. So once I finish stitching out Sending Christmas Wishes, I'm going to stop and I'm going to trim around that block like we did in class. And then I'm going to do my satin stitch. From there, we should have the pretty little straight stitch that goes over top that satin stitch, our ribbon placement stitches, our ribbon tack down stitches, and finally the backing stitch that goes all the way around to finish out our sentiment block. So now that I know I have everything in the right order, I want to double check just one more time because that's how I am. I'm going to go back to my home tab, and at the top of your screen you have the design player, or it's right here on your home tab too. You can choose your design player and you can turn this on and actually watch it stitch from scratch. I'm going to speed it up a little with my fast forward button so that I can make sure that I'm stitching everything out in the proper order. And I'm not going to have my gingerbread man on top of my backing, which then would allow me not to open my pocket. So I definitely do make a lot of notes when I'm changing things around, just because, especially when it comes to ordering and making sure everything is in the right place. You don't want to get appliques out of sequence. You don't want to get projects in the hoop out of sequence because then things don't turn out correctly. So it does take a little bit of paying attention to get everything in the right order. But once you do, you have a great, fun new design. We can watch it stitch. I'm going to speed it up a little more. We're to those last steps, and we put the back on. I can cancel out of here, and then I want to save my new design because I went to all this work to create it. And I'm just going to go File, Save As. I'm going to choose where on my computer I want to save it. Mine defaults to My Designs. And from here, I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it my Christmas pocket pouch. And it's going to save as a VP4. When I'm saving as, that is saving a working file so that if I want to go back in and make changes to this, I can. Once we export it for stitching, remember it's going to now be optimized for stitch out. It's going to color sort and combine and do all sorts of things that we ask it to do to make things perfect for stitch out. So once we've done that, it's a little more tedious to edit something. So this way we have a save file. We can go back in and edit this again later. But I'm just going to save it as a VP4, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to export it to where I want it to go for stitching. I want to make sure this is set to VP3 or my machine format, whatever works for you. In the Premiere software, you have all the formats, so you can choose your format. I am going to turn off my color sort option just because of the fact that I'm working with a ready-made design that they may have duplicated a color in some of the steps at one point. I don't want to end up getting my steps out of order by color sorting. So I'm going to turn my color sort off. The other option would be is in your color list over here on the right would be making sure that you don't have any duplicate colors. If you do, you could change one to something different and then color sort in the end. Either way, that's something you can do. And then I'm going to tell it okay. I'm going to then select where I want my design to go. So if you have a MySonet cloud enabled machine, you can send it directly to your cloud. If you want to send it directly to a USB stick, you can do that. If you want to put it in your My Designs folder, you can do that as well. I think that's where I'm going to put this one. So I'm going to go to Documents, Premier+2, My Designs. And it already has the name because I gave it a name when I saved as, so Christmas Pocket Pouch, but now it has the word exported behind it. This way, at a quick glance, I know which one is my exported file for my sewing machine and which one is my VP4 editing file for my computer. Only your VP3 is going to show up on your machine and be able to open, but in your computer, you'll be able to see duplicate of the files. So it's nice when it says export after it. I'm going to export it, and now I'm ready to take it to the machine to stitch. I hope that you all learned something new and can take this and try it and play with it. I know a lot of you have been trying a lot of the new things we've been showing, and you've been sending us pictures or bringing things in. We're really excited about that. We're really excited to see what you guys have been able to learn, even though we can't be in class together. So we're working really hard to try and provide you with some fun things that you can learn, try, and remember, it's not going to be perfect every time the first time. You may stitch it out and think, what did I do? And you go back to the drawing board. Don't let that stop you. You can do it. It just takes practice. So hope you all enjoyed, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.